I can't believe it's been 30 weeks. I can't believe I'm on my last episode. I really don't know if this will be my last episode for sure. I think it is. I'm definitely not going to do one next Sunday. Um, so if I ever pick up the show, it will be in the future. But this is goodbye for now. I have this other show called Tea Talks, and I explained what that title means in my first episode of it, which was an introductory episode. And all of those videos are going to be under 10 minutes. And I can make them in my room whenever I want. I don't need to clear out the space downstairs to do it here. There's a fly. Damn it. He'll be my buddy for the video, I guess. I'll just have a fly with me. But this is the last episode of this show. If I do live streams in the future, it probably won't be like this. But hey, anything's possible. All I know is this is goodbye for now. And I thought freedom was a good topic because that's what I was thinking about, how that's really what everybody wants. You want to have a free country, or just the idea of being free. And people think, okay, well, freedom means the ability to do whatever you want. But then if you let everyone do whatever they want, sorry, I'm looking at the fly, then people could start killing each other. And then that's not very free for the person getting killed, is it? You know, people rob each other, and the person getting robbed doesn't feel like they're in a free country. They feel like they're in a land of chaos. So that's always been the question. How do we find balance? We want freedom, but we need rules, basically. And that's something that we decided a long time ago. And I think we should wipe the slate clean and just start from scratch. That fly is gonna need to go somewhere else because it's gonna drive me nuts. Anyway, we need to kind of go back to the drawing board and say, let's imagine a world, a country, with no laws, no rules, just complete freedom. And let's go from there and figure out what parts of that wouldn't work, why they wouldn't work, and what we can do about it. Instead of trying to change the laws that are already in place and everything that's already there, just wipe it all clean, start from scratch, and let's try to figure this out again. And this time, let's keep some of these things that we're going to talk about today in mind while we're doing that. So everything in this video is one word. The chapter title is the video title, and it's pretty simple. I thought it was a good way to end it out, to close it out. Chapter 1 is called Belief, and I think it's pretty stupid to decide that something is absolutely true if you don't have any proof. To live your life as if something is true, but you don't have irrefutable evidence. It's not like you can live confident that, you can say, if I don't breathe, I will die. I need oxygen to live. But you know that as a fact. You know that if you stop breathing, you won't continue living. You know that if you don't eat, and eventually you'll die. You know that if you stop drinking, eventually you'll die. But we live our lives as if a lot of things are true without really examining them or saying, wait a minute, how do we know this is true? Do I really want to be spending all my time putting energy into this when I'm not even sure this is what I should be putting my energy into? I'm basing this on things I've been told, dare I say, conditioned to believe. And I think we all have beliefs in our head, things that we have decided are true. And unfortunately, when you decide something is true, you start to live as if it is, regardless of whether or not it actually is. And we have a culture that encourages a lot of completely untrue beliefs. And I could use this example of how biased it is. I was hearing a few days ago about people who need blood, um, where anyone who has had sex with someone of the same sex can't donate their blood. And then they changed it to like, if you had sex with a person of the same sex within the last 3 months, you can't donate your blood, something like that. And there's absolutely no science behind this. I think if you're going to donate your blood, the blood you donate should be tested for any kind of disease it could be carrying, and it's as simple as that. Anyone and everyone should be allowed, if they want to donate their blood, because a lot of people need blood donations. And if you don't want to have blood that's infected with something, then have them test it and make sure it's not. But they do that anyway. They're not going to put blood inside you if there's a chance it could be contaminated with anything. So it's completely insane that based on someone's uh, sex life, you're not going to let them donate blood to someone who needs it. But that's what we do. We decide that something is true. We live as if it's true, and we don't examine it. We don't put logic to it. We just say this must be what it is. And unlearning beliefs can be really overwhelming. I understand that if you have been brought up to believe something and you never questioned it, it can be really scary to start to see the world in a new way. Or if you went on a journey and tried to discover the truth and you wound up believing in a religion or something, and then you started learning information that implied that your religion and belief set was not entirely based in reality, and then you're going to be really resistant to believing that because you've already gotten yourself so comfortable. You're like, I just spent all this time looking for the true religion, and I finally found it, and now you're telling me I was wrong. I don't have time for this. I'm just going to pretend I didn't hear that. And that's what people do, sad to say. It happens all the time, and they are not interested in having a conversation with you, an unbiased conversation with you about it. They're only interested in continuing to believe what they already believe. So, unlearning beliefs can be extremely exhausting and overwhelming and scary to question everything that you've been taught about the world and to see it with new eyes. But you have to do that because the only thing that's certain is change. Everything is constantly changing. There's a quote that says, "A man never steps in the same river twice because it's not the same river and he's not the same man." Everything flows. The river is not the same water. You step in the same river, the water is different. It's all in a different place now. It's not still, it's flowing. And you who steps in it, you have learned a little bit since the last time you did it, even if it was a minute ago. You're not the same exact person that you were at that time, and you never will be, because every second you're constantly evolving and growing. Even if it's just a tiny bit, you are still smarter than you were 3 seconds ago, and you're not the same person that you were a millisecond ago. That's just a fact, the same way that a river is constantly flowing. And when you are resistant to change and understanding new aspects of life because you are uncomfortable accepting that everything is changing and you prefer to just be stagnant and stay in the same place and hold on so tight, just clench, you're really your own worst enemy. But as overwhelming as it can be to unlearn things that you've been taught to believe, you have to do it. There's no option. And and I just want to talk about some things people believe that I think are complete nonsense, just to give you some more examples. And these are things that I've done videos about, but I'm not going to go into full detail here. And I do have other videos, shorter turbo topics and Tea Talks planned for this. Turbo Topics is under a minute, Tea Talks is under 10 minutes. Um, the names are not important, that's just the name of the playlist that they're in, but they're two different shows, and this is less organized and more just me sharing my jumbled thoughts. So basically, some examples I could say, this is what I was thinking about last night, being pro-life, and because I just stumbled on an account, and I always just randomly accidentally stumble on like Instagram accounts from people who are pro-life, and then I see their arguments, and I just always think, if I had a chance to say something to you, I would have something to counter everything that you're saying. Like, So I just paced around my room last night and just vented to myself. And I thought I could have been doing that in front of my camera and making a video about it, but I just didn't feel like it. I just needed to not worry about how it was going to be received and just talk, because I know that I know what I'm saying and I understand it. Um, but I'm going to go a little bit into it here, just so you get an idea. Being pro-life, by definition, means that you're against abortions and mercy killings. A mercy killing is when you try to put someone out of their misery if they're really sick or terminally ill and you just don't want them to suffer. And typically that's with the other person's permission or by their request, but I'm sure there are people who just decided on their own. But that is not okay, because it's never really your place to take someone else's life if they don't want you to, because that's not staying in your lane, that's not minding your own business. And I think maybe I should talk about this in chapter 2. So we're going to move on. Chapter 2 is called Truth, and that's kind of interesting. Chapter 1 is belief, and chapter 2 is truth. We're going to talk about things that we know to be true, and I'm going to say some things that I know are true, but that I'm not sure everyone else agrees, because I can't really provide proof. But there is no proof against anything I believe. Just want to clarify that. Nothing I believe in is contradicted by any facts. So if you disagree with something I'm saying, know that it's not that I'm wrong, it's just that you don't have all the same information that I do to understand why it's definitely true. But that's beside the point. I think of truth and fact as something that really can't be argued and that everyone can agree is the only possible explanation. And if there are alternate explanations, it's not smart to just decide that it's definitely true. I think you should be curious instead, which is chapter 3, curiosity, but I'm not going to get into that yet. Obviously, we're still in chapter 2. So, the past, okay, wow, what I wrote here is nuts. The past and the future are the present, and everywhere is right here. Just sit with that for a minute and think about time and space and how it, the idea of somewhere else and someone else and something else and some other time, some other place, it's all an illusion, because everything that has ever happened and will ever happen is happening right now in this moment. And it's happening in the exact same location, because there is no location and there is no moment. It's all the same thing, and it's all an illusion, and that makes the possibilities limitless. So in a way, everything is real, because nothing is real. So it's like, if you think about damn fly, but if you think about what you can imagine, all the possibilities in your head of what you can picture happening, all the ways that you can feel, all the emotions, all the scenarios you can picture in your head, doesn't it feel kind of limitless? Can you even imagine? Um, can you imagine something you can't imagine? Case in point. um, yeah, so it really is limitless, and I think that's amazing that it's completely unlimited, kind of just infinity. And I don't think a lot of people understand what infinity is. I think infinity is just everything happening all at once, all at the same time. Every possibility, every dimension, every decision that wasn't made, everything that happened in the past that's going to happen in the future, it's all happening right now at the exact same time, in the exact same place. Because there is no time and there is no place. It's all an illusion. And I think love and fear is all that really exists, and the rest is just an infinite illusion. But love and fear is like how you measure energy. If you think of positive and negative energy, if you walk into a house filled with people who are extremely nice, but you still feel uncomfortable for some reason. You maybe don't know why, but there's something passive aggressive about it. And you're picking up on it not because you read social cues or anything, but you just feel uncomfortable. There's something insincere underneath it. And you feel uncomfortable. You notice that energy shift, and you don't want to be there. And then if you walk into a house filled with people who are really, really wonderful and kind and empathetic and humble, and you try to find a word to trigger them, you know how everyone seems to have a word where you just say one wrong thing and they suddenly reveal their dark side, and they just come out and you're like, holy crap, you're not the person I thought you were. A second ago you were really nice, and now all of a sudden I've brought out a dark side of you. But there are people who are strong enough, brave enough, mature enough to look inward and face their dark side and heal it and come to terms with it and befriend their inner demons instead of feeling. Because I think what you need to remember is that your inner demons, it's not some alternate version of you. If you wish that you could just separate the all the beliefs, all the fear, all the ego, all the things that are not based in truth and reality, if you wish you could just separate that from you and only be truth and love and positivity and light, and get all the darkness out of you, and then create another version of you that's only the darkness, so you can be separate, and then you want to kill that version of you, you're not going to be able to kill it. And it'll, it's never going to go away, because you don't, it's not about um it's not about getting rid of it. It's about becoming friends with it, and understanding that it's you. That's the thing. That's what you really need to keep in mind. It is you. It's not some monster inside you. It's you. And there are dark energies. I think it's important to know we are wide open channels, and because we're energy, because that's pretty much all that's real, we can be manipulated by positive and negative energies. And sometimes someone will just say the right thing to you and just make your day. And then later you ask them about it and they have no idea what you're talking about. They don't even realize they said anything. And they were being used by positive energy in that moment because you needed it. And they were kind of offering themselves in that way, which is a good thing to do. But if you're not mindful, there are darker, negative energies that will try to get into your head and make you do things that you really shouldn't be doing, things that are against your interest and everyone else's. And I have a lot of videos where I talk a lot about positive and negative and dark and light energy, and that this is probably not the video to be watching for that. But they're two separate things. They're polar opposites. And if you are in a house with people, excuse me, if you are in a house with people who are authentic and they've gone in, befriended their demons, done their shadow work, and they are humble, they're not like, oh my God, I love all these people around me, I'm so afraid they're going to leave me, what would I do without them? They're just saying, I'm honored that they're in my life, I'm grateful that they're here for however long they are, and when they leave, I'll understand because they don't owe me anything, and I don't owe them anything. They're not here out of obligation, they're here because they want to be, and that's beautiful, and I'm grateful for it. And when you are afraid that someone's going to leave, what you're basically saying and what you're basically doing is not appreciating that they're there right now. Because while they're there and you could be enjoying it, you're busy worrying about when they're not going to be there. And what you're basically saying to the universe is that you feel they owe you something, and you are not trusting the universe to make sure that you get what you're owed. It says, I'm alone, I'm on my own, I don't have any trust in anything, any kind of higher power, any kind of higher order, which is ironic that you come into this world that you didn't create, that you don't know anything about, and you tend to just believe everything you're told. But then people who get skeptical, people who start questioning things, still tend to become somewhat cynical and thinking that there is no meaning to anything and everything is random and pointless. And that, again, is a belief. It's not necessarily separate from things people are taught. That's just one of many options to choose to believe, but it's not the truth. And it blows my mind how many people, I think it's ironic that you can come into a world that you know nothing about and decide that you're the boss, and decide that that you're alone and no one wants to help you, and there is no kind of karma or divine order. You ignore every kind of sign. If you keep seeing the same number pop up, if people keep being in the right place right when you need it, um, and you notice all sorts of things, and everything just feels like it's laid out perfectly, and you end up realizing that you're doing something you really want to be doing, and you look back at all the things that led to that, and you realize that a lot of those things you don't even know why you did them or why you said them or why they happened. All these events that led to where you are and where you want to be, it just worked out that way because you're being supported. And you can choose to ignore it, you can choose to pay attention to it, but I think it'd be pretty crazy to think that everything in the universe is random and meaningless. I think that's a way more far-fetched belief, and it makes a lot less sense. So it also discounts a lot of the things that are definitely there if you actually start paying attention. And I've talked to and worked with plenty of mediums who communicate with energy and give me information. I ask about a person and tell them nothing about that person, and they don't know me. I didn't have time to look up my life or anything, and they immediately describe that person like they've known them for 10 years. And I can do that. I'm good at that because we all have these abilities. I can, help people with friendships. If you're like, I'm worried about this friend, I don't know what their situation is, I can tap in and then I can figure out what they're feeling and what they want, and I can give you advice based on that. And I've done that a few times with people, but I I know that this is real because I've used it. I understand how it works, why it works that way. And I hate that I live in a world where people immediately say, oh, that's nonsense. That's magical thinking. That's insane. That doesn't work. It's not real because science disagrees with it. First of all, I don't care if science disagrees with it. Science can't disprove it because there's nothing to disprove. I understand that there are some biased reasons why science might not want to work with it, and I'm gonna not get into that today, but you know, there is nothing in science that contradicts anything I believe in. And the idea that people are so confidently calling people crazy that you would rather call your friend crazy than believe them if they tell you that their house is haunted is so sad, that your own beliefs that are not based in fact or evidence or reality are more important to you than your relationship with your friend and believing them when they tell you how they're feeling. Because what is that going to do? They're not going to feel like they can open up to you because you're just going to try to apply your own beliefs to it because you don't like that they're challenging it with something that maybe contradicts it. And you're not open-minded, you're not curious, which is chapter 3, but I want to wrap chapter 2 up first. Um, the house example, the people who are passive aggressive and the people who've done their shadow work. You notice that difference. It's kind of undeniable, and you can't argue that there is positive and negative energy. You can't argue that there are people who are pleasant to be around and people who are not pleasant to be around. A very negative, unpleasant emotion when someone is yelling at you, when they're angry, when they're coming from a place of fear and control and manipulation and ego. Ego is not you. Ego is who you think you are, and it's always susceptible to change, which is why people's egos can be hurt, because when you learn information that contradicts the idea you have about yourself, who you think you are, you're going to get defensive because you don't like that the idea you have of yourself is being challenged. But it can be challenged because it's not real, it's not you. So when you're coming from a place of ego, you're coming from a place of fear, and it's all about control and manipulation and ungratefulness. You're being ungrateful, you're being entitled, and that's a very scary person to be around. You feel like you are around low, draining energy. You feel drained when you leave. You feel like somebody just reached inside you and just put a suction cup or something, put a vacuum inside you and just said, taking all your energy. And then you just want to go to sleep after someone like that. It's exhausting because there is positive and negative energy. There's high and low vibrations. And if you're vibrating high, and you're staying there, you have to have faith in a higher power, and the value in that is in understanding that you're not alone, that you didn't come here to figure everything out by yourself in a meaningless universe that doesn't have your back. You have to understand that your creator, whatever you have to thank for the fact that you exist, is on your side, wants to support you, wants you to be doing what you want to do. And the only time you're not doing what you want to do is when you're denying that, when you're living in fear and making decisions based on fear instead of decisions based on love and positivity. And that's why I think love and fear is all that's real. Everything else is an illusion. Chapter 3, this is the end. Chapter 3 is called Curiosity. I can't believe we're finally at the end. The last chapter of the last episode. Taking a curious approach to life allows you to remain humble and loving. When you wake up and are no longer attached to a certain belief or a certain outcome that you're hoping for or anything, and you can just kind of be, then you're able to be more loving and you're able to do more work. You don't feel that you are owed a relaxing time. You don't mind doing work. You don't mind putting in effort. You don't feel like everyone should just be taking care of you and doing your work for you, because you're humble and you have to be curious. So freedom and justice matter just as much as dignity and integrity. Dignity and integrity, you can't have one without the other. If you are not respecting yourself, then you don't have integrity. And if you don't have integrity, you're not respecting yourself. So integrity is kind of like a moral code when you know that something is not right. You don't break a promise. You make a deal with someone, you stick to your end of it. And you don't make deals that you might not be able to stick to. If you do have to break a promise, you ask permission first. You don't just do it behind the other person's back. You and then beg for their forgiveness later, because that's ego. That's manipulation, and there's entitlement behind that. So integrity is a very important quality, and it goes hand in hand with self-respect, because how can you respect yourself if you don't have integrity? If you feel like you're just begging and stealing and taking, you're just running around grabbing whatever you need, feeling like somebody owes you something, how can you respect yourself? How can you feel? You may feel confident, you may have blown up your ego and think you're the shit, but that doesn't mean that you genuinely have self-respect. Deep down, you feel guilty because you're doing things that are causing harm to other people and are coming from a place of entitlement. And you know deep down that you're better than that you can do better than that if you want to put more work in, if you want to accept that it's okay, that life isn't just about relaxing, that you can actually put a little effort in. And if you think you're here just to relax, I hate to break it to you, but if you work your life just so you can sit on an island and eat pineapples all day and never do anything, you're going to realize that you're going to get very bored. And a lot of people have unintentionally pointed this out and contradicted the idea of heaven and hell, where there's a place you end up for eternity. If you went to heaven, or a place where you just had the ultimate positive experience, the ability to just do whatever you've always wanted to do, then you'll do it. You'll do everything you ever wanted to do, and then some. And then you'll realize that you still have eternity left, and you'll go crazy, because if you do everything, then there's nothing else to do. And that's why there is not a place to end up. You're not supposed to make it to the end so you can relax, because then what? And that's what's important to think about. Then what? And if you do all that, and hello? Somebody's door was open. And if you do all that and you make it to this this luxurious island, you're going to get bored. You're going to realize that you're not doing your passion. You may have this passion inside of you to do something specific. You don't know what it is, but it's that you've been called to do something. I don't know what you want to be. I don't know what you want to do with your life. You know, a job is different from a calling, from something that you feel like you're supposed to be doing. You know, I could have a job working at McDonald's, but I know that I am a movie director and I'm supposed to be making films. And if I just won $1 billion in the lottery, I wouldn't have to work a day in my life, but I would still feel like I need to. I would not feel fulfilled. And jobs like if I worked at McDonald's are supposed to be stepping stones. They're supposed to be support to get you where you're supposed to be. But when you're there, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be work. But you couldn't imagine yourself doing anything else because you know that if you're not doing it, you're going to feel like you're spinning in circles and you're not really getting where you need to go. Something is missing, and that's going to be a really nagging and unpleasant feeling. So a lot of people have grown so numb and have buried who they really are so deep underneath all of this that they just don't have feelings. You know, these are the people who are capable of murder and rape, all sorts of horrible things, because who they really are is lost underneath all of this fear. And it's still there, and they could choose to get back in touch with it anytime they wanted, but it's not likely that they're going to choose that because they clearly have chosen fear and are used to choosing that, more comfortable choosing that, and you can't force anybody to make a decision they don't want to make. You can push them into a situation where they're going to be likely to make it. You know, sometimes a near-death experience will wake somebody up and they're like, all right, you know what, I definitely need to start focusing on the intention behind my decisions. And you know, there was this story of a man who had a near-death experience that I found on YouTube the other day, and it was you know, he was a Christian, and I'm not Christian. He was talking about the Catholic faith, but I don't think that that's really necessary because I think what he said was still interesting. He talked about how he died, and he asked God. He was like, what is the meaning of life? And he didn't want to revert to that cliche question, but he couldn't help it. He just couldn't think of anything else. And he said that God was talking to him. I'm not sure if this literally happened, but I don't want to shoot down his experience. But either way, I thought it was a very good metaphor, and it's still, there's truth in it. He talked to God, and when he said, "What's the meaning of life?" After I think getting another question answered, I didn't watch the whole video. I was skipping around, but God laughed and said, "You know, everybody asks that, and everybody wonders that, but the answer is really pretty simple." And he didn't say what the answer was, but he kind of just hugged the man, and the guy, as he was telling the story, just started sobbing as he remembered what that felt like, and the only way that he could describe it was just pure love. And it's interesting how so many Catholics and Christians and people of other faiths worship this God, this creator, this all-knowing, all-powerful, all-good being, and believe that he is anything but love and positivity and high vibrational energy and healing energy. They think that he has a personality, has an ego, has opinions, has preferences, and they think that he has hate. You know, they say he loves the person but hates the sin. Hate is an unnecessary emotion. To hate something is to imply two things. To hate something implies you have no control over it, and you feel that you need to control it. If you did have control over it, you wouldn't hate it, because it's yours. You can make whatever you want happen. There's no reason to hate it. If you hated something you can control, you might as well be hating yourself, because it's up to you, it's in your control. We only hate things that are out of our control, and we hate them because we can't control it, and because we feel responsible for controlling it. We feel that without controlling it, we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing, and that creates this frustration, this anger inside us, that's hate. And that's not necessary. That's insane. Let go of that. Please, for your own sake, if you are ever hating anyone or anything, get that out of your system, because it's not necessary. You're not responsible for them. You don't have control over their decisions. You're only responsible for yourself, your own boundaries, and protecting people from others who could be hurt by them. But you don't hate them. You have to make sure everything you do is coming from a place of love, self-respect, boundaries, love for other people who could be hurt by them, but never hate for that individual. Because you have to understand that underneath that individual's disgusting behavior, there is a frightened child who is not being acknowledged. And they need to work on their relationship with that inner child, but they're probably not going to. And that's unfortunate. And you should feel bad for them. You should think of that as a tragedy, but don't pity them. Don't look down at them, and don't hate them. You have to be able to have unconditional love for everyone and everything, because we're all connected. It's all the same thing. And it's not your job to hate it. It's not your job to hate anything. I just realized I said everything I have under chapter 3, so I can start wrapping up. But, oh, I hate that this is my last video and I'm wrapping up. Well, my last episode of this show. I'm doing other videos. I have a lot else planned. But, yeah. As usual, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask in the live chat or in the comment section below. I always reply to questions, although I don't get any. I literally get no viewers, no questions, which is why I have to do a different show. I need to take a different approach. I need to try and go viral, and I can do that with a different approach. So, yeah, the bottom line is, make sure that you are always coming from a place of love instead of fear. Oh, somebody said this was very enlightening. Thank you. You're very welcome. I'm glad it could help. That actually made my day. Sometimes I see viewers going in and out, and I see it at 0 a lot, and nobody's watching, and I just am like, nobody cares about what I'm saying, and it's just, I'm just talking to nobody, and hardly anybody watches it, nobody comments, nobody likes it, nobody says anything, and it just is really nice to see somebody say something like that. To know that I'm not talking to nobody, but I would do it anyway, because if even just one person sees one of my videos and it helps them, it changes their day, it brings some type of positivity into their life, then it was worth it. And for me, I just talk about this shit all the time anyway, so yeah. So yeah, never judge somebody, never feel that you're superior or inferior, and never blame yourself, never feel guilty for what you're feeling. Guilt and shame are very heavy emotions, and again, it's connected to ego. It's this idea that you're not good enough, that you're not being enough, which is a little self-centered. You have to be more humble than that and say, you know what, I am human. I make mistakes. I'm not always going to think the right thing or feel the right thing. And I also understand that not everything I think is my own. I'm a vessel, and there can be light and dark energy kind of inserting thoughts into my head when I'm not mindful. And I don't always have to make the right decision. I don't always have to think something that I can be proud of. But I always have to make sure that I'm not blaming myself, judging myself, or feeling shameful and guilty about something I'm thinking. If you act on it, that's a different story. You can learn to control your thoughts and be more mindful and make sure that you are always being the person that you can respect, a person that you want to be, that you can be proud of, a person that your inner child would be proud of, where you look back at a version of yourself before you were exposed to a lot of conditioning and fear-based beliefs. And you remember when you were just joyful and happy and pure. And you want to ask yourself, would that version of me be happy with what I'm doing right now and who I am right now? And you want to always strive to make the answer yes. So when you're not striving to make the answer yes, don't feel guilty. Don't blame yourself. Just understand that it's okay. You can make mistakes. Just whatever it is, let it flow. Let yourself feel what you're feeling, and be kind. So yeah, I mentioned a couple things here that are their own topics and I didn't elaborate enough on them. So if you disagree with anything that I said, I will happily elaborate in the comments, and I will be making other videos talking about some of the topics I brought up anyway. So yeah, this is about freedom. That's how you find freedom. I mentioned at the beginning the idea of a free country where we wipe the slate clean and just start where there are no laws, no rules, nothing preventing everybody from doing whatever they want, and go from there and say, all right, how would this go wrong, and what steps could we take to fix the areas where this would be a bad idea? Instead of saying, well, we have all these things in place and let's just tweak them. Just completely start over and go from there. Obviously, don't leave a period of time where there are no laws, but on your drawing board, start where there are no laws and then figure out why it wouldn't work and go from there. And keep everything we talked about today in mind when you're doing it, because it's really important to know all of this. I also just want to say that if you believe in God, it doesn't have a name. God is just a higher power, just a higher order to believe in, something that always has your back. And you can give him a name. I prefer to think of God as a guy who is my pal and always has my back if I feel like I can't handle something. I forget all the time. I talk like I'm totally fine, but I really like I'm not super active in living as if what I talk about is the truth, because I still have to work on unlearning some things that I was taught and that I learned to believe. But I'm doing that, and it helps to talk about it and to talk about what I should be doing instead. But knowing that I'm not doing it and I have all this information, I think should help you feel less guilty if you're not doing that well. Like it's okay. Um, it's hard, but as long as you have the intention, as long as you're trying, and as long as you know that you have the power, you don't have to wait for somebody to come rescue you. It's inside you. And when you feel like you can't handle something, don't just say that. Don't feel like a victim. Just understand that you can always trust God to be that little still small voice in your head telling you, don't go in that room. There's a lot of dark energy there. There, don't say that to that person. Don't apply to that job. Um, Turn this way in traffic, things like that. It's there, and it has your back, and you can't be second guessing yourself and doubting it all the time. That's when you kind of start um, to lose it a little bit. But it's there, and if you can live with that and not let anxiety take over, then you can call it whatever you want. You can say, I have faith in the universe. The universe has this system that I'm part of, whether I like it or not. Even if I try to play by my own rules, I'm still playing the universe's game that I didn't invent. And I know that the universe is always on my side. You could call it God. You could call God a woman. You could give God a different name. You could give God a personality. But whatever it is, you have to know that it always has your back and your best intention at heart. And that's just what I wanted to say. Because the real God has no identity, no ego, is just pure love, and that's all. So, thank you for watching. This is sadly my last episode, but I did 44 minutes, I think, which 4 is my favorite number, so that's perfect. Alright, it's been fun. Thank you for watching. If you ever want to see all of these, you can go to my playlist and check out, it's called Fallen World, and there's 30 videos in it. Unless I decide to continue the show at some point in the future, but I probably won't, because I don't need to. I'll see you next time I upload, which won't necessarily be next Sunday at 4 for once. Bye.